So it's great to see you all. We're going to this presentation, as you can see from the slide, is called Writing in the Age of AI, using artificial intelligence without losing your voice. And I'm just so thrilled that Dr. Stuewe could be with us today. Dr. Stuewe, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your degree?
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's very great to see you all this evening. My name is Yvette Stuewe, and I recently earned my doctorate in instructional technology and distance education. And I did my dissertation. I graduated last May with my EDD, and I did my dissertation on the decision-making process that teachers go through when deciding whether to adopt AI or not. So it's kind of a passion. I've always had an interest in instructional technology and good pedagogy to align with effective use of technology that aligns really to our learning goals and content before bringing the technology in. So I'm a full-time faculty member in the School of Education here at Concordia. I teach some courses in the teacher credential program and then also in various graduate programs in the School of Ed. So it's great to
Thank
see
you.
you all. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Stuewe. You can see why I asked her to lead the seminar. She's got the credentials and lots of experience. And what happened was last fall, we were in a School of Education meeting and Dr. Stuewe presented to our fellow faculty members, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. I wonder if you could create something like that for students. And she was gracious enough to work hard on this presentation. So we're here with you today. So I'm just going to share a tiny bit about the owl real fast in case you don't know, and then I'll let her get to her.
We lost you. Oh no. Julie, are you there? I'll text her.
Okay, sorry,
Yep,
I'm
we're
back.
back. Yeah.
I have been having problems with my programs crashing, so
Oh no.
um, anyway, okay. So just wanted to share a little bit about the owl. So I think I know a lot of you, but for those of you who may not be as familiar, I just wanted to share that we do host a variety of events through the OWL, usually about one workshop a month. And then I've also been hosting one writing retreat approximately once a month. So you found your way to this workshop, which I'm glad for. I have one more scheduled for May and on common assignments and how to write them. So these would be for newer students who are kind of learning the basics of like a reflection paper versus a literature review, etc. And then the OWL writing retreat is this Saturday morning. So if you would like to attend, it'll just be some quiet time for you to sit with fellow writers. I'll be there to answer any writing questions. So if you're trying to make progress on a project, please feel free to join us. And then just the other couple little things I wanted you to know about are there is this graduate level writer resource guide I've created. And it's got information about how to use the OWL as well as APA formatting information and academic writing tips. So I'll send these links in the follow-up email, which I'll send along with the recording of this presentation. And then this is the link to our schedule where you can set up an appointment for direct feedback on your papers. And we have two types of appointments for graduate students, either a written feedback appointment or a live Zoom consultation. So with the written feedback, you would send in your paper, and then within 2 days of your appointment date, you would get your paper back with comments. And the live Zoom consultation is where we would just sit down and meet over Zoom to talk about your work. So just want to let you know of those options in case you weren't already aware. Okay, so that's it. I just wanted to get us started. Oh, let me just start with a quick prayer and then I'll hand it over. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for bringing us together here this afternoon. Thank you for all you do to help us develop our minds and to educate us in order to serve our neighbors well. Thank you for Dr. Stuewe and her knowledge and her generosity in sharing this presentation with us. And I pray that you would bless each of us as we work through this information. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Okay, well, please take it away, Dr. Stuewe.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. I believe I need to share my screen again.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. All right, are we set? I think.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Let me get down here. So yeah, as you can see from the title, I did have the opportunity to present to our School of Ed faculty, and Julie asked, like, would you be interested in presenting for the library and the writing studio? I'm like, absolutely. So I'm very honored to be here with you all tonight. And I'm just going to kind of jump right in. We know, obviously, that AI is a tool and that it's not a replacement for thinking. And it's a tool that's not going away. I think most of us have kind of accepted that now. So really the key question is more not whether AI should be used, but actually how it should be used responsibly, okay, as it's kind of diffusing out into our landscape. So if we see here, why is this blank? Huh. Okay, so AI can assist with some stages of the writing process in particular, but obviously it shouldn't replace that intellectual responsibility. So you probably have already maybe tried this or you've heard this on your own. We know that AI is really good at summarizing. It can help to brainstorm. It can kind of help get us past that blank page sometimes, to outline and to revise text. But with that, there does come a risk, right? In potentially losing our original voice or losing our reasoning abilities, the strength of them, or even just ownership really in our learning. So we just want to be aware of that and make sure that we're addressing writing assignments to really develop our thinking. I think if I could summarize like kind of everything, one mantra or motto that has been popping up in my mind lately is like, show your thinking. Like within this new AI landscape, like where can we see your thinking? And writing really is traditionally an opportunity to show that thinking. And then that strong academic work, just a reminder, we know that that requires interpretation, right? Analysis, argument, okay, or discourse, reflection as well. So then when we're kind of taking a personal check on our use of AI, these are some things that we can kind of ask ourselves about. Are we using these skills? Are we interpreting, analyzing, having a claim and supporting it? Are we reflecting? Is our thinking basically evident, right? First, before I kind of go into some different like uses for I do want to kind of anchor it into our servant leadership framework, which has really been a solid foundation for us in the School of Education. We've worked it into our School of Education mission and vision statements as well. But we really, whenever we talk about AI or various conversations that we really focus on these four qualities of honesty, compassion, humility, and courage as we go forward. Okay. And it just helps to have that shared value going in. This is also something I kind of wanted to share that we just talked about today. So this is kind of hot off the press, at least for me, something that was introduced to me. And we had a colleague in the doctorate program, Dr. Eugene Kim, and he shared this policy that he's been working on with some K-12 schools, and basically using these symbols. And it's revised from this attribution for AI. And really, even just considering and attesting to the use of AI with these symbols. For example, this one right here would be maybe something that was completely made by AI. Okay, and we'll talk about that. This symbol is maybe something that was made by AI, but then modified by humans, which is often the case, or something that was made by humans and then modified by AI, which is often the case as well with revision, or something that was completely made by humans. So it's just kind of interesting to break down like the use of AI as we go through. Excuse me. Another great thing that we have, I don't know if you're aware, but at Concordia in August, when we bring all the faculty back on campus, we have a day that we call RAD Day, and it's research and development. And it's a wonderful opportunity for us to learn from each other. It's kind of like an in-house workshop. If anybody took sabbaticals, then they share the projects that they worked on during their sabbaticals, and so on and so forth. So the information that I'm going to share with you is 3 classifications of AI use, and it's kind of from a RAD presentation that I attended by Dr. Mark Newmeyer, and he's in the Townsend Institute. And this is just kind of stuck with our faculty. And I think, Julie, this is maybe what kind of piqued your interest for discussion. And we've been able to integrate it into different assignments. So the first level is augmentation, using AI to really support your thinking. And I'll dive in deeper into these in just a moment. Versus substitution, where AI starts to replace some of your work, typically for convenience sake, right? And then abdication is where AI is kind of completely taking over responsibility as a learner, where the learning is being completely relinquished to AI. So if we kind of take a deeper dive into these 3 categories, I have outlined here the definition for each, the student role, the AI role, and the learning impact. So if we take a look at augmentation, it's really just enhancing the student work, but not really replacing the intellectual effort. The student still creates that core intellectual work, is engaged in the analysis, the synthesis. I've seen so many great metaphors here. You can see here where AI can act as a coach or act as an assistant. We listened to a presentation from a colleague in our nursing department here at Concordia, and she talked about AI as a sous chef. So there's just so many great metaphors. AI as a teacher's assistant, so on and so forth. And it actually, when used in this way, can deepen that learning. It can build the higher order skills, and it can improve the quality, right? But as we move into substitution, you can see that AI might replace some tasks that students usually do themselves. They're outsourcing some of those kind of low cognitive or menial tasks, sometimes that routine or clerical work, as you can see here. And so the role of AI is really to kind of serve as a shortcut, often for efficiency or to save time. But you can see where the risk to learning might increase just a little bit if it's overused or if one becomes over-reliant at this level. And I do want to clarify too that this is a continuum. It's not even really a hierarchy. There's times where substitution can be absolutely appropriate, and there's times where augmentation might be more appropriate, and there's times where abdication might be appropriate too. And so if you look at abdication, that's where AI basically takes over the full task. So as far as the student role, there's very little input, maybe engineering that prompt to put in there. And AI really kind of acts as that primary author. And so you can imagine this would be the highest risk for potential undermining of academic integrity, right? Or learning or critical thinking as we go through. Excuse me. Before I go forward, because I kind of have a little bit of a Mentimeter, like a quiz for you, but does anybody have any questions on any of this so far? All right. I'm kind of looking up to my monitor at YouTube, so sometimes I'll be looking up and down. So if you keep in mind, augmentation is enhancing, substitution is replacing some tasks, and abdication is basically relinquishing, right? If you keep those three categories in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at some scenarios together. So if you want to, maybe on your phone, or if you have another device, if you want to scan this QR code, it should take you to a Mentimeter. And as we go through these different scenarios, I encourage you to kind of consider the following. Is a student in this case exhibiting reasoning, interpretation, their own examples, their own voice? Are they using those academic skills? Let me jump in here. Oh, good. Some of you are in already. All right. So if we look at the first scenario there, a student relies entirely on AI to generate both their research questions and the final essay, submitting it as their own work. And 6 of you put abdication. Okay, and there I purposely made these kind of general. This one is pretty clear, but some of them we might have some differing opinions on. But that's great. 8, 9 of you. What stood out to you? Does anybody want to share what stood out to you as this being abdication? Feel free at any time to talk, or you can go into the chat too. Julie, maybe you can help me in the chat, but all right. I
Well,
think, oh, here we go.
Danielle says, oh, here's a couple.
Oh, good.
Danielle, can you see those, Yvette?
I can. Thank you. Relies entirely on AI. Yep, those are the key words. Perfect. Both the questions and the essay were written by AI entirely. Perfect. Perfect. Let's take a look at another one. A student asks AI to suggest an outline, but writes the entire paper themselves. What are your thoughts? And again, some of them, and we did this with the faculty too, and there was a number of them. It wasn't all full consensus every time, and that's okay. And I think these conversations are important for us to have time to have these discussions together. Great. Does anybody want to share or add in the chat why you thought that might be augmentation? The word suggest. Good. Thank you, Danielle. Good. Again, kind of similar words too. You have entire, the student wrote the entire paper themselves, right? Kind of leads more towards that as well. Perfect, Mandy. We're thinking the same thought. Great. All right, here we go. Next one. A student asks AI to rewrite their entire essay draft to sound more academic and submits the rewritten version. What are your thoughts? Good. It looks like we have a little bit of differing opinions. We have most of you saying substitution and someone saying abdication. Yeah, I think this one's on the border too. I kind of agree. If they wrote their paper, I guess when it says a student asks AI to rewrite their entire essay, you could assume that the student potentially wrote the paper first. Exactly, Danielle. Exactly. Right. And then maybe to make it sound more academic, could possibly be substitution. It could be kind of dipping into that abdication just a tad too. Good, good. All right, a student writes their own exploratory research paper proposal and uses AI to help refine their research questions for clarity and feasibility. Thoughts? Great. Yep, I agree. Very good. Let's go to the next one. A student asks AI to generate 5 possible research questions for a paper topic. The student chooses one and writes the paper independently. That's interesting. Now we have 100% there. I think some of them will have the percentages. Yeah, so definitely using AI in this case to enhance. They did use AI to kind of start with that brainstorming process. What about a student asking AI to generate several discussion posts for an online forum and then chooses one to submit? I love it. Does anybody want to share your thoughts? Looks like a majority says abdication. Why is that? Or the one person that put substitution, if you want to share or put it in the chat. I like this. Look at you guys go. I love this. All right. The original content was students. AI used that content with student input. AI generated it. AI is writing all the responses. Yep. Student didn't do their own original work. I would kind of lean maybe towards abdication a little bit because technically AI wrote all the discussion posts. However, maybe if they're choosing one to submit, there's a little bit of evaluation. I think sometimes you take the thinking where you can get it. Sometimes the thinking comes on the back end as you're evaluating the outputs versus traditionally like at the beginning. But I think I agree with most of you if AI is generating all of the posts. All right, we'll go a little bit quicker. Student copies multiple AI generated paragraphs into their paper without citation or acknowledgement. Very good. So you kind of get the idea there. All right, we'll jump back into our presentation. Any thoughts on any of that as we
I
go
have a
through?
question
Absolutely.
real quick, Yvette. On that second to last question, where the student had AI create all the discussion posts, and then they
Uh-huh.
chose which they wanted to submit, might go without saying, but like that would come up with on the professor's end as um, it was all AI generated, correct?
Yeah, that's a sticky thing. It's really hard to take a punitive kind of gotcha approach to AI. And to be honest, like the AI detectors aren't necessarily so strong, but you could tell as we go, you'll see like traditional patterns of AI writing that might stand out to the professor. Yeah, and
Okay.
what we do, I don't know how it is across other schools, within the School of Education, we're encouraged, if we feel like there was an over-reliance on AI, to have a conversation with the student, to talk about the process, talk about how it was completed, so it might trigger a conversation. Yeah, there's definitely a tone to AI writing as well. Good question. I like it. Anything else? All right, let's go ahead. And I'm going to let Julie talk for a little bit on using AI for brainstorming.
Thank you. So I was thinking about this. I'm loving this presentation because I just think it helps us to think through how we use AI and what role it plays in our thinking and writing. Um, so I am myself a student now. I'm in a Master of Fine Arts program, which is the highest you can go in the field of creative writing or arts. And so I'm writing a paper right now, based on the readings I've had this semester with my class. And so I did kind of a little experiment, and as I'm working on my essay, I first did some brainstorming without AI. And by the way, the prompt very clearly states AI is not to be used in any portion of the paper. So so I first just started with well, I'm just going to brainstorm. I just did a little free writing. I just jotted down some bullet points. Um, and I was a little bit like thinking, is this top, like I was trying to connect different things together from the readings. So we've read a bunch of short stories and poetry, and I'm looking for something that connects several of them. And so when I started without AI, I did notice it forced me to do more, to return to my texts more. And I had to like look for specific instances where something came up and then kind of compare in my own mind. So I felt like I was going a little bit deeper into my own thinking as I was brainstorming without AI. And then, so that was like one topic. And now I'm working on a different topic just as an idea. And so I wrote about a page of text, and I wrote some bullet points and an outline. And I uploaded my opening paragraph with my thesis to ChatGPT and just asked, and I uploaded the prompt. And I asked if what I'd written so far was fulfilling the prompt, and then, to comment on anything else. And first of all, it annoyed me a lot because then it rewrote my paragraph. And I said, wait a minute, I don't want you to rewrite my paragraph. But what I noticed it did was it pointed out where I had some errors in my logic, where I was making leaps that weren't connected, that were like too strong of statements. And so in that way, it was a really good thought partner with me because then I questioned it and I'm like, well, yeah, but you're saying this, but in this story, that's not the case. So it just kind of helped me to work through it. And then in the next slide, I was just thinking about the writing process itself and how we work through a writing process. And it's messy for each thing we put together and write. Hi, Sarah. Glad you could join. And part of that, when we're doing scientific writing or like what we do in the graduate programs, is research actually becomes part of our writing process. And what I mean by that is we go down on, we look at a lot of different research on, maybe we'll choose one topic, look at a few studies, and then we'll look at another topic and kind of just investigate where we want to go. And through that process, we might go down into areas where we end up not needing the research later. And so there's a student on the call, yeah, who I was working with recently, and she allowed me to share her example. She's writing her dissertation on college degree attainment among Hispanics. And there was a time where she was researching AP classes in high school. And then, so she did a lot of work in that area and then realized, oh, that's probably not going to be relevant because now I'm narrowing my focus to only college degree attainment and not really talking about the transition from high school to college. So so as we were talking about it, it made me think of times where I myself have done that as well. And even though I didn't end up using that research, it helped me like point out language and vocabulary that then I could use to dive deeper in other areas. So sometimes that process can be a little bit messy, but it usually helps us continue learning. And then if you could just hit I just have one more text box there. Thank you. And so then when you start writing, for me, I have a lot of false starts. So I start writing to try to see what I'm trying to say. Because without writing, I maybe I need to talk through it with someone or so that can really be helpful to just don't I try not to focus on the first draft of a paper being what it's going to end up as it's going to end up. So I just start writing and let it go where it goes. And then just by the act of writing, it helps me to refine and my thoughts and make them more precise. And then, like I was saying with my brainstorming, I could plug my thesis statement into an AI generator and just say, is this working? Does this fulfill the prompt? And then I can think about the scope of the paper. So anyway, I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts that I've experienced either with students or with my own writing and just show how AI can be a nice, augmentation to the process. But still, what I liked about it is it made me actually go deeper and think even more and connect more things. So that was something that I noticed through that process. Sandra?
Yeah, this is a question for Julie. The examples that you're giving us, I mean, they sound great, but my question here is this similar to the writing lab? I mean, we are submitting our papers to the writing lab for something similar like you did with AI. I mean, that's AI, is AI replacing the writing lab in this case?
Yeah, I see what you're asking. It's a great question and one that I've been thinking about a lot. How does human feedback differ from AI feedback? And so there were a couple of things that I've noticed. As I was working through my topic, I didn't submit it to anyone because it's not to that point, but this is all just in the very early stages. And so it kind of helped me with the brainstorming part. But then in another situation, I was talking with my husband about the topic, and he came up with another idea that I would not have thought of. And he said, well, with that story, it also goes in this direction. And that was something that didn't come up with from AI. So I think your question is timely, and we are asking existential questions about writing coaches and writing teachers, because if we are abdicating our writing to AI, then what do we need humans for? But what I find is really helpful about human feedback versus AI is that, first of all, there's a perception that goes a little bit deeper when it's actually a person that you're talking to who knows you and can kind of help you through that. So I've noticed that with just kind of like having a talking partner. And with the one thing that's really helpful with the OWL, for example, is we have consultants who've read, like hundreds of papers of the same assignment. And so they really know the parameters of the assignment inside out and how that's been carried out with different students, how they've done that. So that kind of experience is something that I don't know if AI could replicate that exactly, because there's a lot of variety in the way students respond to questions in these prompts. And what AI tends to do is bring it all to like a homogeneous, or like a kind of like the commonest space, whereas students go in different directions. And that's what we want. We want students to preserve their voices. So, and then what I've noticed also is, like with the OWL, what we'll tend to do is look more for organization and how the ideas fit together. And if and that's something that AI can be good at, maybe like suggesting like words here or there, but it may not be as strong with seeing how the flow of the work is going. So I don't know, I'm still kind of pondering this. I went to a presentation a couple of weeks ago where there's new research, and perhaps Dr. Stuewe can talk about this, just showing the brain activity, the cognitive activity that's happening when we give up that writing to AI. And so that's kind of an interesting angle, and how it can kind of mesh everything down to like the lowest common denominator, and instead of preserving that voice that each individual has. So I don't want to talk too long, because I want Dr. Stuewe to keep going and talk more about voice, but I hope that sort of answers your question. It's obviously something I'm still pondering.
It did. Thank you so much, Julie.
Yeah, I think I agree too. I think it's a really good question. And I think we always want to keep the humans in the loop, right? I think that is very valuable to maintain our human qualities and talents that we have and bring them in. And as you'll see as I go forward, AI may not actually give the best advice for writing. Just like, I don't know if you've noticed with Grammarly, like I don't always like the suggestions that Grammarly gives. And so that's kind of interesting too, to still be able to maintain that critiquing, right? That evaluative role. So thank you so much, Julie, for sharing those examples. So let's go ahead and talk about ways to strengthen your academic writing. And this can probably be shared with you at some point. I have a hyperlink to a guide, but I kind of broke it down into this presentation right here. And what I'm going to show you, again, we're not really taking this through like the gotcha approach. So it's not signals that necessarily prove AI use. But what I really want to focus on is the academic writing, and it can't weaken the clarity or the originality of the writing. And so ultimately, that's what we want to focus on. It's just good, strong academic writing, whether you're using AI as a thought partner or doing, the writing yourself as we go through. So I'm going to share with you about 10 examples, and I'm aware of time, so I'll kind of go kind of quick. First of all, the introduction, kind of a common characteristic of outputs from AI or writing, is that the introduction could almost fit any essay. Here's an example. In today's rapidly evolving world, and it loves the word like evolving, changing, ever-changing world, rapidly evolving world, technology plays an increasingly important role in society. So to potentially make that a little bit stronger, okay, you want to have something that's a little bit more distinct and personal to you. It depends on the type of writing assignment, if you can bring in your personal experiences or not. For example, in my education courses this semester, several instructors have discussed how AI tools are changing the writing process. So it's bringing like your voice into it, right? Your ownership into it. So strong writing starts with a specific context or a specific observation. So that's one example. Another one is sometimes you can have a whole paragraph that really tries to say something without really saying anything at all. Okay, it gets kind of competitive. So here's an example. This isn't a paragraph, but technology has many benefits and challenges that should be considered. Okay, so it sounds nice, but it's not really being that specific. So if we did a stronger example, it might be, while AI tools can help students organize ideas quickly, relying on them too heavily may weaken the process of developing original arguments. So you see how much stronger it is by being like precise and providing examples as you go through. So really you want to make sure that the strong writing has a clear claim. And then another one is repetitive sentence patterns. So this would be AI sounding. One benefit of AI is that it saves time. Another benefit of AI is that it helps students organize ideas. A third benefit of AI is that it improves efficiency. Before I jump forward, do any of you have an idea of how to make this stronger? If you want to throw some like a sentence in the chat, or if you want to say an example, what are your thoughts? How can we strengthen?
Well, you mean how we can correct this sentence?
Yeah, how can you make it better?
Um, some benefits of AI that saves time is, well, no.
Yeah,
AI can be benefit students by helping save time, organize ideas, and improve efficiency.
beautiful. Look at that. Same idea, like basically synthesizing them together. So it adds a little bit more sentence variety as you go through. So you just want to make sure you have that varied sentence structure. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Too many formal transitions. This is true. If I don't know how much experience you have with using AI, but this one is very common as well. Furthermore, AI tools can improve writing. Moreover, they can increase efficiency. Additionally, they can help students generate ideas. What would be a way that you could kind of tighten this sentence up?
Now, that one is kind of like the other one.
Right? You can just kind of bring them all together, right?
Yeah.
And Danielle, I see yours in the chat there too. Thank you. AI tools can help students generate ideas, organize drafts, and revise language more efficiently. Very nice. So basically, you want to make sure that the transitions support the ideas and they don't overtake the information. Here's another one. Not providing specific evidence. So AI says studies show that AI improves student learning. What's one way that you can improve this?
I don't want to write. Go ahead.
The improvement will be just citing the author. I mean, yeah, the author of any research that is to prove that the statement is um, um, is being researched or evaluated.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sandra. Backing it up, right? Having that in-text citation in there. Very good. Okay, strong writing includes specific sources or examples. All right, here's another one. Everything sounds perfectly neutral. So maybe while AI offers advantages, it also presents challenges that educators must consider. What would be something that you want to add to this to strengthen it?
Examples after that, such as, and then give examples.
Exactly. Exactly. AI tools can support brainstorming and editing, but they should not replace the process of developing original ideas. So you want to kind of make sure you have a clear position and that you're clear in your statement of what you're saying, your claim. Here's another one. The writing stays too general. This is similar to one that we just did. Teachers can use technology to support student learning. It's okay. It's just a little bit vague. Where's your voice, right? Where's your thinking? So to make that stronger, in one classroom I observed, if you have a writing assignment that you can include personal pronouns in, the teacher used live polling during lectures so students could submit answers anonymously and discuss their reasoning. Much stronger than just saying teachers can use technology. This is almost like a topic sentence, right? And then you could go into the paragraph. So specific examples will make that writing more credible. Any thoughts so far on just kind of maintaining your voice as you're doing the writing? Have you seen any of these with outputs? Do you have any questions? Sorry, I have not looked at the chat here. Good, good, good. Thank you, Carrie and Danielle, for your thoughts. I appreciate that. Give examples.
I think Danielle has a question.
Danielle. Hi.
Hi. So my issue that I'm having is not creating stronger sentences. My issue that I'm having, it seems that I'm having, is that my sentences are strong and they're flagging as though they're AI.
Interesting. Are they long sentences?
It's just, I mean, I've had several discussions with my teacher and she's, we've talked about it and I told her I used to be a technical writer in a former life. And she's just saying that unfortunately sometimes AI sees particular writing sometimes as though it has been modified into to sound more academic. And so that's kind of why I'm here. That's my biggest struggle. So I'm just trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, the indicators unfortunately are not super reliable, but again, like we mentioned before, they can spark conversation. So it's good that your teacher is talking to you. If you are a technical writer, that kind of makes sense too, because the AI writing is going to be very predictive and very much in a pattern. And so if that's kind of how your brain thinks, is very logical as you write your sentences, then I think it kind of makes sense that that might be detected. But if that's your voice and if that's your writing, that's kind of who you are, you know? So I'm glad that the teacher's having those conversations with you about it and just keep sharing your background. This is how you write um, and maintain that. Maybe I don't know if your sentences are similar all the time, maybe providing a variety of different types of sentences. But yeah, it does sound like it might just be consistent with your background and with who you are.
It may be helpful too, Danielle. I wonder if you do more evaluation, interpretation, and example. I've noticed that with I read a student paper once and I thought, this kind of sounds like AI, partly because there were no examples brought in. And the professor wouldn't have been able to see how that student is actually internalizing the information and applying it to their, to their teaching or whatever. So I don't know, that would help.
So I actually did a little experiment where we had two different types of things that we needed to turn in. And one, I did my usual writing, and the other, I pretty much essentially kind of dumbed it down. And I removed a lot of things that I would normally say or the way that I would do specific things. And the one that I submitted with my normal writing came in flagged orange or high. And then the one that I did, though, I removed things to kind of I felt was to oversimplify it. I got the lowest score on, so the lowest AI score.
Hmm.
So I think for me, that kind of just, it helped me feel a little bit better because I was feeling a little distraught. Like I didn't know how I'm learning, I don't know how to deal with this. And so, and I don't want to be perceived as someone who's kind of cheating the system. So it's just a struggle for me. But to see the two differences and to see that, like I said, my teacher is amazing. We've been having conversations, but for me to actually see one style versus another and how it's being perceived is just, I guess it's just a little frustrating.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I do think when I look at scientific writing, a lot of it's not formulaic necessarily, but there's a lot of common terminology. Like researchers found a significant result in blah, blah, blah. So it kind of lends itself to that kind of common denominator. But one of the things that I've been thinking about is, we have these virtues of truth, goodness, and beauty. And how can we make our writing in terms of our style to really flow in a way that shows our creativity, but also still adhering to, the style guidelines. And so I like the word elegant when I think of writing, that it's like it flows really easily from one word to the next. And the sentences linked together very clearly. I like the idea of sentence variety. So it is tricky though. I ran across another writer like you, Danielle, who that was her style, was just very technical, and but it actually made for terrific scientific writing. So
I also appreciate that you and your teacher are having these conversations, not only for your benefit, but for educators too, right? To provide extra insight into the writing process. And I don't know if you've shared like your two examples, but that would be really interesting as well, because we're all kind of trying to figure this out too. And so, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. All right, let's move forward here. We have a couple more. So another characteristic is that the conclusion basically just repeats the topic. So this might be an AI sounding conclusion. And to strengthen that, again, just adding some more details here as you go through. Okay, so basically just making sure that you're adding that additional insight or that synthesis. And again, this is where you're keeping in your voice. This is where you're showing your thinking, you're showing your evaluation and your analysis and your synthesis as you go through. And then sometimes the writing feels too perfect with flawless grammar or consistent tone, the paragraphs, but really, typically, not always, not in every situation, as we just heard, but typically human writing is going to have a little bit more varied sentence length, moments of experimentation. It's going to be a little bit uneven, not so rhythmic. It has that human variation and reasoning as we go through. So the very last one is that writing lacks that personal voice. AI is transforming education in many ways, versus a stronger example might be, again, bringing in your personal thought. As a college student learning to write research papers, I've noticed how AI tools can generate. Again, just really bringing your thinking and your perspective into the process. So just kind of a simple rule for if you're even using AI assisted writing, it can help with the brainstorming, the outlining, clarity, maybe comparing your work to a rubric. But again, just remember that that strong academic writing does require that reasoning, interpretation, examples, and voice. So I thought we just have about 5 minutes left. These are kind of good, like self-check questions to ask maybe before submitting work. Could this a paragraph be applied to almost any essay? Is it like super general, or do you have specific examples and evidence? And is your voice, your thinking, your perspective present in the writing? If not, then you want to revise it. So let's take a look at this. You can look at either the top paragraph or the bottom paragraph. And I know Julie recommended that I take out one of these, and I wasn't sure which one to take out. I'm like, I like them both. So just pick one, like the top or the bottom. And just kind of, I pulled all of these sentences in from the slides that we just looked at, all of these recommendations. What do you notice? Just take a moment, like we have 4 minutes left, so maybe just take 30 seconds or a minute. Does anything stand out to you in this AI generated output? Something that could be strengthened? And you're welcome to put it in the chat, or you're welcome to share. If you kind of had a chance to read through both paragraphs, did you see a section in which potentially transitions dominated versus supporting the writing?
Yeah,
Yes.
Jacqueline pointed out the second paragraph. Yeah.
Yeah. What do we see in that second paragraph?
Furthermore,
We have, for instance, we have furthermore, right? As technology continues to evolve. Good. Anything else stand out to you?
one thing I noticed in the first paragraph is the first two sentences and the last one. They're good sentences in terms of framing a basic idea, but they don't really say much. And the middle two sentences, or the third and fourth sentences, they give some information, but they don't really expand on it too much.
Yeah.
So it might be helpful to like frame the paragraph less, like just provide a simpler
Just like
topic
a topic
sentence.
sentence. And I feel like if you do the first two, artificial intelligence is becoming increasingly important in education. Today, in today's rapidly changing world, technology plays an important role in many areas of society, including education. It's kind of repetitive, right? Kind
It
of
is.
saying the same thing. Yeah. Very good. All right. Well, as we go forward, just a reminder, kind of as we wrap up, like AI can assist in the writing process, but the most valuable part of academic writing is still your thinking, your perspective, and your voice. You are a crafted masterpiece, uniquely designed in Christ Jesus for a purposeful life. So that's what I have. But if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer any questions, something that you wish you would have heard that you didn't, that I can answer for you. Thank you. Thank you for all your emojis.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stuewe. This was wonderful. I think you provided such a great framework for us and really guided our thinking to continue discussing these, the challenges and the benefits of this great tool.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Blessings to you all in your writing adventures and educational journeys. Thank you. Thank you for your thank yous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming, and we'll stick around here, but otherwise we hope to see you in a future workshop.
Bye. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.